Hi, hello. Welcome to the live. Hi, my name is Shan, and I'm an embroiderer based in New York City. I do both traditional Chinese silk embroidery and three-dimensional stumpwork embroidery, just like the one that you can see from the screen. So I came here from 2013, and I started embroidery since 2014. While I was trying to make a traditional Chinese silk purse for myself. And then I just fell in love with embroidery and then tried to seek all these techniques and try to design my own pattern and just combine those traditional 2D embroidery with the wires to make them 3D. And then I can attach them to some kind of bag, jewelry, and some display projects. So in today's video, I'm gonna share with you how to thread and paint a petal that I introduced something about in the course from Domestika. And thanks to the Domestika that have me here, and I have the chance to share all the techniques with you. So I'm doing something like this. With Domestika, this is a final project. That's the same course we did with Domestika. And then today we're gonna shape these petals like here. I've already did half of it. As you can see, I'm just using exactly the same pattern, the practice pattern that I worked with the Domestika course, and then the same color palettes. And you can find them in the live details. That's for the color palettes. So here, I'm using regular DM3 threads, that's which the common one that you can find everywhere in the local market. So the darker one, the purple 155, and then the lighter purple 340, the pink 3689, and then the light blue, actually it's a light lavender 3747, and then we give it a little highlight, then that will be 444. Those are exactly the same thing that we have in the course. So we just want to, embroider this petal together with you for anyone who bought my course or going to buy, and then you can ask me any questions when you're stitching. So first of all, you can see that I have two petal or flowers here. So this one is finished by silk, and this one is by cotton thread. I just want to show you the difference. So you can use the same technique, but with the different materials to reach the same effect. So this one is just the same as we did. So you can see they just radiant out and stretch out like all those straight lines. But probably while we're stitching today, we just want to do some, let's say, challenge. We can make little curves. So while you're thread painting, you can give a little change. As you can see, all these, we have straight lines, right? But maybe let's do some curves. Okay. I'm giving myself this guideline, and you can do it yourself as well. When you are making your own pattern, you can see if it's a flat petal. If it's a just you're going to make a 3D project, then you want to imitate the real flower, the gradient, the grain of the petal like this. So they are actually straight lines. But if you are making a 2D embroidery, you're painting the petal on, like you embroider this piece to your fabric, then you want to give it a little more vivid look, then you can try to add these curves. Okay, so let's go start it. And I already thread this needle. As you can see, I didn't tie a knot from both ends. They are all loose ends, so I can adjust the length while I am stitching. So that's how I usually do, but it's not a must. It's just up to you. Which one is most comfortable for you? I will usually just start from the middle to the side for a three-dimensional embroidery. And then I can just use all these tiny stitches to secure the thread. Then I don't have to tie a knot. When you do the double-sided embroidery, you just want to have it looks flat and flawless, let's say. So you want to prevent or avoid any bump ups like knots. So if you want to tie a knot, it's okay. So when you finish that, you just cut the knot or trim the knot off. But for me, I will just use tiny stitches to secure my thread. And this thread I'm picking right now here is the number 155, the darkest purple. I guess it's lavender. We are using the long and short stitches to paint the petal. But, to me, they are just straight stitches. Like I mentioned in the course, the difference between these straight stitches are just the combination. They have back stitches, they have satin stitches, but they all straight, right? So you just different combinations. So you can open your mind and stitch wherever you think it should be. That's just like the strokes you do when you learn how to paint with a pencil. And of course, you can use some, let's say, split stitches or some stitches to outline your pattern. It works, but it just will give a little bit thickness to the edge. But it's okay if you want to do that. For me, I don't do that. So I'll just keep stitch. And now we are about coming to the curved side. By the way, the pencil, the marker I'm using is the air erasable. Here, not sure if you can see. You can find them from local markets, craft stores, online stores. Just remember they are air or water soluble. Hello. Hello, friends from the world. Yeah, and I see some students, they already post their projects and their practice patterns on Instagram, and I think they did a very good job, especially, for the first try. I saw some projects from yesterday from some girls. I think they speak Portuguese. I think they did very well, and they have very close stitches, very careful when they stitch. So I think, yeah, they do have a fun. Nice try. And I really want to see how they, I really want to see their final projects. But it takes time. And now you can see that when I go to the curved part, I make the stitches shorter. So we can make the curve. Where is my? So here I make them short. So later, when I have the second layer, we can connect these parts and make it a curve. Oh, hola. Usually how you do the 2D embroidery is a little different from the 3D, because to me, like 3D, you can just imitate the real thing. I mean, flowers or butterflies, you can just follow their natural pattern. You don't have to cast any shadows. You can just, like this one, they have straight lines. You can just do the straight lines. But for a 2D embroidery, so you may want to give them shadows, give them curves, give them more details. So you may have to think about it and check images or the photos that those photographer post on Instagram or everywhere else. Then those are very good reference you can go to when you are making your own projects. By the way, for the three-dimensional embroidered, what the most important is to keep your needle straight down. So probably you can see that my fingers some kind of hiding the needle, but that's why I want to keep my needle straight down. So yeah, it should be like this. They go straight down. You don't want your needle like in this angle. Otherwise, your needle will come from a different place from the back. Then your front side and the wrong side won't be the same. That's not a double-sided embroidery. Okay, I'm kind of finished this threads. Then I'm going to have a new one. When I'm ending here, I just use tiny stitches as well to secure the threads. And you don't have to be worried that they will be covered and they won't lose. So embroidery is something that you need patience and you need passion to complete. Otherwise, you might not, those projects will left there blank, unfinished forever. We spent how long? Like about 5 or 10 minutes just to finish in such a small pot. But I'm kind of like that one because I can imitate and listen to some audiobooks, movies, TV shows while I'm stitching, or just simply meditate. Long and short stitches. Even those small areas, you use long and short stitches, and those places that you need detailed, the place that you need details, you also want to have them long and short. Even this curved part, I make very short stitches, but they still long and short. Mexico. Two hands to stitch with. I think that's one of the reasons why it takes me too long. Thanks for. Well, thank you. The two hands stitching, yeah, it make it faster a little bit. But if you are practiced enough, it doesn't make a big difference to me. And if you want to practice, it will be easily practiced. I mean, because I used to be one hand as well, and just 4 months practicing, and then I can use both hands to do, left hand up or right hands up. I can both do that, but I'm actually a left hand. I'm right hand. But while you're practicing, you can do them. And which is important that when you are doing two hands, you will need a stand. So I'm here using a regular Chinese embroidery frame, which is a kind of, let's say, professional design. But this is not a good one, so I don't recommend you because the quality is not good. So I'm not going to share any information about that. But for you guys, if you use any regular hoop like this is a bamboo. I already used some paper towel to wrap the hoop. If you use this one and if you wanted to do two-hand embroidery, you will need a stand. And, so I recommend wooden hoop because they have even surface from these parts. So, the bamboo, because of the natural texture, they have knots like this. So you will always see some, gaps here. So you will have to always wrap your hoop. But probably it's good to frame your hoop up, because the natural color of the bamboo looks beautiful. Then while you finish your project, you can frame up there and just hang on the wall. And by the way, another trick when you're doing a three-dimensional embroidery or a 2D embroidery that you working on a fabric or apparel piece, that your stitches must be no longer than 1 centimeter, like about 3/4 inches. Because if it's too long, let's say like this long, and when your fabric being you take off your fabric from the hoop, they will pucker up. You will see, and then if you're wearing some sharp jewelries, they will scratch your embroidery. But if this is a embroidery painting that you're going to stretch it, mount it to a frame like this, just go ahead. Never think about the length of the stitch, because the longer stitch, the better shade. I mean, the better shade of the color, because they can go, all the colors can go into each other, and then your cut shading will be super natural and super smooth. So that's good for shading colors. But just remember, not for apparel or for three-dimensional embroidery or for anything that you're going to cut off or wash or wear. Those stitches must be short. And the way I am doing is I just want to have my stitches close to each other. And I am imitating the natural grain of the petal, the veins, or the, what we call those, the lines of the petal. So we start from the bottom to the top. Sometimes probably you can also see people doing the stitches using horizontal lines. Maybe they call it satin stitch. That's another way of the texture, which is, we don't say it's wrong, it's just a different texture of the embroidery. And it depends on what kind of project you're using, your design, your conception. No problem. Open your mind. Okay, we just use some stitches to finish the outline. Now I'm going to use the number 340. But this one, I choose a lighter purple, which is not really a strong comparison to the first layer. But from your eyes, in person, you can tell the difference. But from the camera, probably you cannot really see. Okay, just thread it. I still start from the center part. But it's not necessary. You can start from the side. So even the first first layers give you some space when you're doing the long and short stitches, so you can see. I'm not sure if you can really see that. Okay. We will have some space while we are doing the first layers. That's how you're gonna do. You leave space for future stitches. That's how the long and short stitches do. You can just connect to these ends and then go further. So the color will be shaded naturally and deeply. Okay, so let me remark this. And while you're doing the long and short stitches, it's better to have your stitches have different length and shortness of each stitch. So you don't want to make them like, you know, so they will have the even end here. That's, to me, you want shade very natural. So you want to do long and short stitches, like long and short stitches. So make them uneven. In this way, you can have a natural shading, and you don't see they are like very. You don't see this clear bound of your color sections. And while you're stitching, you have to change the direction of your thread slightly, so you can make curves and those textures details. We came here with this curved parts. As you can see, the first layer, my thread is in this angle, and now I want to change it, so your thread's going to, the direction going to be like this a little bit, just a little bit, so you can change the direction little by little, stitch by stitch, naturally. Okay. Let me show you. Okay. So I just want to give this color a little longer details like a vein. So I want to use more stitches to define this part. And then I'll keep going to the side. So when you're taking your thread, you don't want the thread to be too long. Like from your finger to your elbow, it should be okay. And if you want to fold it in half, then the half size, the length, should be no longer, when you fold them, it should be no longer than this. Because if it's too long, then every time when you pull out your needle, then you cannot pull the thread out at the same time. You will be tangled from the other side or from the front side, and then you will have to pull a few times. In this way, they will tangle and then take a longer time. So if you do, if you just measure the length from your finger to your elbow, and then when you pull it out, it's just like one pull, and then everything will come out. And when they come out, then you don't hold your needles too tight. So if you pull too fast or too hard, then your needle should leave your finger. It's not like you pull your fabric like pump up. You pull your frame out. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, let me. So now, I mean, when you use a how to say, a kind of shorter threads, and then when you pull it out, if you tie your knot at the end of your needle, so when you pull it out, you should leave. I mean, if you tie the knot at the needle, then your needle or your thread should be left. It's not like when you pull too tight and then you bump up your fabric. So that will be too tight. And then when you hold your needle too tight and you pull too tight, your fabric will be, how to say, gathered up. And then your embroidery will bump up. Because while we were embroidering, especially when it's a long project, the moisture, the humidity of the air will change the texture of your fabric. So if you had always used a different, if you pull your fabric too tight today and softer tomorrow, then the tension is different. Your fabric will be, your embroidery kind of will be redone. You have to cut them off or just change a piece of fabric to redo it all the time. So always try to keep your needle loose. The tension should be light. You're just holding your needle. You're not like press it. So when you work it, now you pull it out, and you can see that you cannot pull it, and then your hand should stop. So that's how we do. And if you hold your needle too tight, you can't stop pulled it tight. So that's kind of tricks. And always keep your needle straight down. In this way, your wrong side is copying your front side while you're working in the front. Wondering, have you ever done any flower embroideries before? Or like what kind of flower is your favorite? I think I already done a lot of roses or peonies, things like that. So I'm going to maybe make another flower for the future projects. Okay. I see some friends from the world which I cannot read. Okay, I think I should stop here and then add in a different color. Probably I should do more. Maybe I should do here, I want to make it pink so you can see the curve. Okay, using pink here. By the way, I used to organize my needles, threads, with bobbins, but I felt like it's just waste my time. And usually when I bought threads, I bought the full palettes from DMC, like 400 colors. So it just took me forever to wind everything to the bobbin. So I will just now pull the thread from the number side. And then when I am done, I will just, insert back to these tag or label and then pull it out. It's organized. I know it's a little bit lazy, but yeah, I just don't want to spend that long time to wind all those threads to the bobbin. It's pretty when you're doing a presentation, but for daily use, the easiest way or most convenient way for me is the one I'm going to choose. So how you organize your threads? If you have any good ways, you can share with us. Okay, we're going to the curve. And I just want to do a long stitch till the end order to twirl the edge of the petal. So this is how I'm going to do. 2 short stitches, make 1 long stitches. They connect each other, and then I can have a good shade. Because I'm trying to keep my needle straight down, so my fingers always hide my motion. So I just wanted to show you where I do, and then press down. So we have the slight curve here. The thread painting tricks is just kind of like, you know, when you give yourself a section. Oh, you cannot barely see. So, you know, it's like this. We just make the petal into all these sections, right? And then you can just use, okay. Like when we are in the kindergarten, we use our crayon to fill out the color section. You use long and short strokes, right? So that's the same thing actually. Did I miss any comments? I haven't done any more for a few years. I've been making the time to get back to it in my sewing machine just to go to collect dust for a bit. I think we will be able to rewatch this later. You can watch it later from Domestika platform, Instagram, or I think YouTube. Yeah, YouTube, you can watch them later. What kind of fabric do you use? It looks like a close mesh fabric. It's transparent. This one I got from Taobao.com, which is a Chinese platform, but it didn't say what kind of material it is. Just say practice fabric for Xu embroidery. That's a typical Chinese embroidery. I think the texture is nylon, and it's really, really tight weaving fabric because there's no hole. It's no visible holes, and it's really strong, heavyweight, heavy duty, perfect for silk embroidery. Especially when I split my silk strand into like half, and then when I'm using on this one, it's still, you know, there is no stitch holes. Usually when you're stitching on some fabric like organza or cotton, so when you pull it, you put your needle down, you will see some stitch holes. Okay, I see. I think my curtain is just like kind of like organza. Let me show you. Okay, excuse me. This is the my curtain, and I think it's a little bit kind of replace the organza feeling. It has really large holes, as you can see, right? And then this kind of thing is not good for embroidery. So every time when you put your needle there and when you pull your threads, you can see all those holes. And I may have something around here. Okay, excuse me for a while. These measures, these are, I think, tool. You can see they all have those large holes. So these are for wedding dress make. And my one here, the one I'm using here, this one is a cotton, and you can see they have the pattern while they weave this fabric. I think this is the front side. And then this one is a practice fabric, but I have no idea the name of it. Okay, good. Okay, let's keep going. I actually bought a different kind of fabric of organza. Some we have nylon, some we have silk. So for me, this one definitely is a nylon piece, but I don't know the name of the woven texture or the name they called it, but the material itself is nylon. The one I bought is the organza, nylon organza I bought from Amazon. The one is really loose weaving, and when it's really shiny. Also, it's heavy duty, but I think those are for decoration purpose. They are not for embroidery. And then later, so I bought pure organza, for a pure silk organza from online stores. So those are kind of matte look, matte finish. They are not that shiny, but they have the same weaving grain. That's the same way. I mean, so the difference is they look better comparing to the nylon. But this one is definitely good for embroidery. But it's just, I don't know the name. You're welcome. Okay. I didn't use the same color shade that from the dark purple to light purple. I'm just using the color I want to do the project. So it's not like you can see a full shading process, but I think you can get the conception. And especially when you see the pink with the purple is kind of clear, that you can get the idea that how we shade and how we put our needle, how we stitch the area. And we just have 10 minutes left. If anyone has any question, don't forget ask me at this moment. By the way, I don't like to use multiple needles while I'm stitching petal. I usually only use multiple needles to stitch those pet portraits or animals, because you have to change thread all the time. So you will see all those needles here. And that's a one-sided embroidery, so it doesn't matter you have tangles or mess in the back. But for the petals, I just want to make it clean. And yeah, as you can see that my all these threads here, they are kind of, let's say, aligned very well, right? But if you're doing those doing those animal things, then you just don't want them to be aligned like this, smooth. You want people to see the directions of the fur, of the feather, then your direction will definitely be visible, very clear. And just for example, you're making the petal, so you have everything like this, and you will have a very clean petal edge, right? But if you're making a cat, so we will have a cat face. When you're doing their fur, it will be long and short, long and short. So this way you can make the furry look. You can see, and then of course you have their nose. So when you're doing that, you want to change the direction of the threads. They have the face here. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you see here is the face, and then when you're doing, you will be like this, and your stitches, over stitches. Then you can see the direction, and you can see their bone structure look. Because the fur is just following the bone structure, right? And then your fur direction will go like that. But for the petals here, we just want them to align very well to each other, like they're in the queen. So it's smooth. But furry look just on the contrast. They have to be the way they grow. The fur grows, so you can tell that's the fur, that's not the petal. And all these lines is just like you are gathering all these lines like a bouquet, right? You want them to go down to the same point here. So when you are working, you're leaving gaps, you're leaving space for the next layers. You can have the third layer go into the first layer, so that will be very, again, natural. Yeah, that's how we want to do the petal and what we want to achieve. Especially they are in the same color shade. So now you can see I use like 3 or 4 stitches. Next layer, we can just use one thread from here to connect all these 4 stitches, and they will be 1 stitches. That's how you make space for your next layers. That's the conception. And then we can just secure this. Okay guys, we still have 8 minutes left. Just let me know if you have any question. I saw your 3D butterfly and I love it. Would you consider to teach the technique to have the patterns on each side? Well, thank you so much, first of all, but it'll be a little hard to demonstrate how I do it, because while I'm doing it, I have to flip the frame, the hoop all the time, so the camera cannot focus. It's very hard to do it online. But there is another way, I think maybe it's a little easier, that you can do that. You stitch 2 patterns and sew them together. That will be, achieve the same thing, but will just be a little thicker than the way I do. but it still works, right? And oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, so probably you can see we have a very small curve over here. Oh my god, how should I hold this? Okay. We have a little curve from this section. They came from this part and down to the bottom of the petal. From here, the direction of the thread is like this. And this side, they just like go straight down to here without this slight curve. So if you're working on any 2D embroideries and you want to give them details, you can try this way to make it look more vivid. You know, all those petals like peonies or some roses, they have creases of the petal, right? So if you want to make these curves on the 2-dimensional embroidery, you can do this. Okay, I have a question here. Shan, are splitting actual threads or are you going to in between previous thread? I'm not really sure if I get this. Are splitting actual thread or are you going in between previous? Oh, okay. I think I know what you mean. I think they both works. You know, when you place your needles to the previous layers, you just go choose a place, but not choose the stitches or gaps. I mean, you mean what you mean is go into the gaps or you stitch on penetrate the previous threads, right? But it doesn't matter. For example, right now I want to go this part to make the line natural. So no matter it's the thread itself or the gap, I will just place it here. So if it's a gap, then that's a gap. If it's a thread, then I will just penetrate the thread. But just don't just make sure that when we're doing this kind of embroidery, we don't want to have our threads, you know, like lay over each other, you know, have such a big difference of the angle. We want to have them have this kind of angle. But if your threads go like this way, then the way or direction of the thread is not going to be smooth. So that's the way we have to, and that's the point we should be concentrate on. Yep. And especially when you have multiple layers, you definitely split the threads. Never mind. Okay. What kind of fabric do you use? Okay, this one is cotton, and this one is nylon, I think, but it's not organza. It's something, they may have a name, but not. I didn't know that. They just say it's practice pattern. I mean, practice fabric for some Chinese embroidery. I think the reason why they invented this piece of fabric just because, you know, we had a lot of masters who were doing those cap portraits and use a silk threads, but they split the silk threads into like 1/64. can you imagine they split this thickness of threads to 164 just to imitate the cat fur? And if the fabric is very loose and have large holes, where can they place their needle? So yeah, I think that's why they have this kind of fabric. Okay, last 1 minute, guys. Any question? Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, do you have any plans to do any other classes? For now, nope. Because I have no idea what to do. I don't have a theme or topic to do. So, well, if you have any suggestions, just let me know on Domestika community or just on Instagram. And okay, time's up. So when you finish this kind of petal and then wired it up, you can make this flower. So the complete full course to make this flower is on Domestika platform, and you can find the link from Domestika, and you can just search my name from Domestika platform. Ta-da! And just the last point, that once you learn how to do this you can use any kind of other threads like silk or wool or nylon, or some people ask me about if they can use Gutermann threads, because we always mention about DMC brand. And Gutermann, absolutely, you can use it. I mean, even this is sewing threads. Why not? They're just different texture. You just decide what kind of texture you prefer, and then you can just use them. Okay. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.
La idea es como algo muy frágil.
Se me fue la hebra.
I'm going to show you some examples. This is what we've got behind me.
¿Qué más preguntas tengo por aquí? ¿Cómo descubriste que lo tuyo